The first thing Ava Collins felt was his hand on her waist. Firm, warm, steady in a way that made the entire room freeze for her. She had walked right up to a stranger, asked him to pretend to be her boyfriend in front of her ex, and now she was standing in the middle of a crowded Manhattan party with a man who looked like he could destroy anyone with one move. And she didn't even know his name, but he knew exactly what he was doing. He leaned down, his voice calm and deep against her ear. "Relax. I won't hurt you." The way he said it didn't calm her. It made her heart race faster. Ava swallowed hard. 30 seconds earlier, she had marched across the ballroom like a woman with a plan. Ethan Parker, the ex who had cheated on her 2 months ago, had invited her to this event as friends, only to show up with a girl who looked like a magazine model. His arm around the girl's waist, his smile too wide, his eyes flicking to Ava every time she looked away. It felt like a slap. So when she spotted a tall, intimidating man at the bar, black suit, silver watch, sharp jawline, eyes that seemed to follow everything, she acted on impulse. Brooke begged her not to. Ava didn't listen. And now here she was, pretending to be confident while everything inside her trembled. Ethan finally noticed. He walked toward them, his fake smile disappearing. "Ava?" he asked, stunned. "What are you doing?" The man next to her, her stranger, didn't move. His thumb stroked her waist once, slow, like he was claiming her. She felt the touch everywhere. Ava forced a smile. "Ethan, this is my boyfriend." The stranger finally turned his head, and Ethan flinched as if punched by invisible force. Those green eyes were not normal. They were too calm, too observant, too dangerous. "You didn't tell me you were seeing someone," Ethan muttered. The stranger lifted an eyebrow. "Does she answer to you?" Ethan blinked. "I'm talking to Ava." "She doesn't owe you anything," the man replied, still collected, still frighteningly in control. Ethan opened his mouth, but the stranger stepped forward. He didn't raise his voice, didn't shove, didn't threaten, but Ethan stepped back anyway. Ava could feel eyes turning in their direction. People always noticed power when it walked into a room, and this man carried it without trying. Wanting to end the awkward spectacle, she tugged lightly on his sleeve. "It's okay. You helped. Thank you. I'm going to head out." He finally looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his expression shifted. Not softness, not anger, something sharper than both. "I'll walk you out," he said. It wasn't a question. Ava didn't want a scene, so she followed him through the ballroom, through the hallway lined with gold decor, and out into the cool Manhattan night. The air smelled like rain. His driver opened the back door of a black SUV, but the man didn't let her step in. Instead, he moved close, so close she had to tilt her head to look up at him. His hand lifted, and then he grabbed her face, firm, controlling, not gentle. Ava's breath caught in her throat. "You really don't know who I am, do you?" he asked quietly. She tried to step back, but he held her jaw in place, not hurting her, but making sure she didn't look away. "I just needed help," she whispered. "I'm not trying to cause trouble." "You already did." She felt her stomach drop. His eyes were not the eyes of a man who simply flirted at bars. They were the eyes of someone used to command, someone used to being obeyed, someone whose life didn't operate under normal rules. Ava tried to pull his hand away. He didn't let go. "You used me," he said, his tone low, steady. "You walked up, grabbed my attention, and dragged me into your game. You put yourself in a spotlight you don't understand." She pushed his wrist harder. "I didn't know. That's the problem." His grip tightened slightly, making her lips part. "You didn't know who you were touching." Her heart pounded against her ribs. He leaned in, his breath brushing her cheek. "Now you do." He finally released her face, but not her arm. His fingers wrapped around her wrist, not painfully but firmly enough that she understood she wasn't leaving until he let her. A black SUV pulled closer to the curb. 2 men stepped out, dressed in dark suits, watching them silently. Ava froze. This wasn't normal. This wasn't safe. This man wasn't just intimidating. He was someone people feared. "I'm going home," she said, trying to sound brave. No, he replied simply. No? Her voice cracked. You don't get to decide that. He turned her wrist gently but decisively, pulling her closer to him. You walked into my world tonight the moment you took my hand. I didn't mean to. Doesn't matter, he said. Her throat tightened, fear and adrenaline mixing until she couldn't tell them apart. He looked down at her as if she were something he couldn't decide whether to punish or protect. I need your name. Ava, she whispered. He nodded once. Ava, good. Now listen carefully. He traced her jaw with his thumb, so softly it contradicted everything else about him. You wanted to use me to make him jealous, he said. Fine. The street suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. But now, his voice dropped even lower. You're mine. Ava's stomach flipped violently. I'm not yours. I don't belong to anyone. His eyes darkened. You do now. Her breath stilled. Why? Why are you doing this? Because your ex picked a fight with the wrong man, he answered, stepping even closer. He dragged your name into conversations he shouldn't have. People now think you matter to me. But I don't. He tilted her chin up with 2 fingers, making her look at him. You will. Ava's knees weakened. He nodded to his men. Open the door. The back door of the SUV swung wide. Ava took 1 step back. No, I'm not getting in that car. He didn't move toward her. He didn't grab her again. But the way he looked at her was worse than any touch. Calm, certain, unshakable. Ava, he said quietly, if you walk away right now, you walk away alone, in the dark, with people watching you who don't want you safe. Her heartbeat thudded painfully in her ears. What people? She whispered. A shadow moved across the far sidewalk, a man in a hoodie watching them. Another leaned against a building pretending to smoke. She hadn't noticed them before, but he had. Get in the car, the stranger said again. Ava's pulse jumped. Fear shot up her spine. Who are you? He stepped so close their bodies almost touched. Luca Moretti. The name hit her like a punch. She'd heard it before. Everyone in New York had. The kind of name whispered in rumors, tied to deals, tied to danger, tied to things that didn't appear in the news because no one dared to print them. A Mafia name. Her breath trembled. Oh my God. Luca leaned down until his forehead almost touched hers. Too late to regret it now. Ava's voice broke. Please, don't make me. I'm not making you, he said, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. I'm protecting you, whether you like it or not. She stared at him, shaking, confused, terrified, drawn to him in a way she didn't understand. Luca opened the SUV door wider. Ava, he said softly, get in the car. And then he added the sentence that made her knees buckle, her breath stop, and her world tilt. Because from this moment on, you're my responsibility. Her fingers curled at her sides. Responsibility, property, protection, threat. What did any of it mean? She looked into his eyes, trembling, unable to tell if he was her worst mistake or the only man who could keep her alive now. Ava swallowed hard, 1 step forward, 1 step into the unknown. But before she could decide, a voice echoed from across the street. Luca, we got a problem. Ava flinched. Luca's jaw tensed. Get her inside, now. Hands reached for her, and Ava had to choose. Run from Luca Moretti, or run into whatever danger was calling his name. Ava, move! The command cut through the noise of the city. Before she could think, Luca's hand pressed gently but firmly on the small of her back, guiding her toward the open SUV door. One of his men stepped between her and the street, blocking her view of the voice that had called out. She twisted to look anyway. On the other side of the road, a man in a hoodie was walking fast in their direction. Another shadow moved behind him. It could have been nothing, but none of Luca's men treated it like nothing. One of them lifted his jacket just enough for Ava to see the gun at his hip. Her throat closed. Get her in the car, Luca repeated, sharper this time. Ava pulled back. Wait, I didn't agree to go with you. He turned, eyes hard. This is not a date. This is not a ride home. This is me making sure you don't get grabbed off a sidewalk because your ex-boyfriend could not keep his mouth shut. You can't just... He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. Look at me, Ava. She did. Do you see panic in my eyes? He asked. Do you see me running? No, she whispered. Exactly. If I'm worried enough to tell you to get in the car, you should listen. His words sank into her chest like weight. The shout from across the street came again, closer now. Luca glanced at his men. Marco, clear it, he said. A tall man with dark hair and a serious face nodded once and walked toward the noise. Another man stayed glued to Ava's side. Her pulse thudded. She had two options: stay on a dark street where people with guns were moving around her, or step into a black SUV with a Mafia boss. Both were bad. One felt slightly less suicidal. Ava took a shaky breath and climbed into the SUV. Luca followed her inside and pulled the door shut. The city sound dulled. It was just leather seats, low light, and his presence filling the space. The car started moving before